Alright, so I have here with me the Thieaudio Cypher. This is Thieaudio's newest flagship open back headphone, and despite the flagship title, it's not crazy expensive. It comes at $400 MSRP or $330 if you get it on super early bird at Kickstarter. Overall, I would say the tonal balance is pretty good. The marketing does claim it as a reference grade headphone, and I don't think that claim is totally unreasonable. However, there are 4 things that I noticed with this headphone. The first is that vocals are pulled back a little bit, sort of that 1 to 2 kilohertz region, kind of like that Hi-Fi Man mid-range tuning style. It's not buried or anything, but they are blended a little bit more into the mix rather than being forward. The second is that the treble is very rolled off. There's very little air or shimmer in the upper treble. It's not dark, however, because there is actually a good amount of crispness and sharpness in the lower treble. This allows it to not sound overly blunted, but I do think that this interplay between the lower treble and the upper treble can make it sound a little bit confused sometimes. I want to say here that the treble is extremely safe, but it's not quite because of that lower treble energy. But I do imagine for that like 90% of people, this won't be an issue, and instead they'll be missing that upper treble air instead. The third thing is that the bass extension is quite good. There is a slight mid-bass, lower mids elevation, and a good follow through into the sub-bass. Even with my glasses, the bass roll-off isn't too bad. The bass quality itself is okay. There can be a little bit of one-notedness to it texture-wise. And because of the lack of upper treble, the bass presence does feel a little bit more predominant. Finally, the fourth thing to know is that even though this headphone is technically an open back, it is quite sort of in your head sounding. There's very little openness to it. The imaging and stuff, it's fine, but the soundstage experience is like noticeably small. It's not quite to the level of a close back, but I would say it's just one step above it. Now, in terms of the perceived technicalities, the resolution, the layering, the dynamics, that sort of thing, it's fine. It passes the threshold for being good enough. But let's now do some quick comparisons. Surprise, surprise, I prefer the HD 600. The funny part is that a lot of people talk about the Sennheiser feel, right? But this isn't really true with the Sennheiser HD 600, and especially not true if you have fresh pads on them. And what I mean by that is that compared to the Cypher, I hear the air and shimmer on this headphone a lot more. The Cypher almost sounds stuffy when I go back to it. And despite the HD 600's reputation for feeling kind of closed in, the treble extension does help it feel more open than the Cypher does. The mid-bass punchiness is also better. Now, compared to the Edition XV, I also prefer this headphone more. What's interesting here is that this relaxes the vocals a little further, it tames that lower treble, and also has just a little bit more upper treble air. While the Edition XV isn't quite as open as Hi-Fi Man's other models, it's definitely more open sounding than the Cypher does. In conclusion then, I do think this Cypher is a headphone I can listen to mindlessly all day. But that's just it. I'm mindlessly listening. I don't get drawn into the music the same way I do with the HD 600 or the Edition XV. As such, while I will give the Thieaudio Cypher the FC Construct stamp of approval, I won't give it a strong recommendation. Still though, props to Thieaudio for putting out a competent flagship headphone. See the comments for more details.